southeastern corner of the school most.
Yeah. Los Angeles now. You're one of the originals.
That was a long time ago. That was a long time ago, man.
Yeah. You went to Group 1, you've been back there. It's all right. Your boys have become the same thing.
Absolutely.
Guys, thanks again for coming. I appreciate you guys rolling in. I know we're starting the summer and it's kind of starting to quiet down a little bit, so we may have a little smaller crowd today, but I just appreciate you guys being a part of this. I know some of you guys are new to the fellowship, so I thought it'd be good to kind of show you all a little bit more about what we're about. First of all, I want to thank the sponsors that are involved, everyone that's a part of this. Not only everyone that's helping us with food and beverage, which is Three Nations Brewery, Sincoro, Maker's Mark, Tito's, and Meet You Anywhere Barbecue, but also every other corporate sponsor we have that's a part of it. Bloomfield Noble, Double M Square Ranch, RHR Oil and Gas, Summit Financial, Ranch 171, and Magnolia Turf. Really appreciate everyone that's making this happen. As we continue to grow it, we're starting to lean a little bit more towards a sponsor-led initiative, and this allows for us to have even more people that we can touch. So it'll be kind of cool. But I know we've brought this up every time, but I want to make sure you guys are aware of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to build. In addition to this being almost like an outdoorsman speaker series, we want to make this almost like a united way for the outdoors, where we can bring people in and help raise money for nonprofits, for wildlife and conservation, and try to help groups that don't have the funding capacity or don't have the distribution. So if you look at like Ducks Unlimited, that thank God we don't have anyone here that's from that, but Ducks Unlimited, I would argue they probably have a good amount of money, right? They're well funded, ton of duck hunters everywhere. Groups like, Captains for Clean Water, maybe not so much, right? There's some groups that may need some capital and that might help. So this is a place where as we grow more in our funding, every single person that raises a certain amount of money can be a part of our advisors council or members of the board that raise a certain amount of money and bring some other corporate sponsors in that get to a certain capacity. At that point, we can allocate where that additional money is used every year, which could be upwards of 20 or 30,000, depending on how we're doing this. So really our initiative is to try to bring back the value that the wildlife and game has brought to us. So ultimately, that's our mission, and to educate is a part of that as well. We'll start doing more trips and that kind of thing as we continue throughout the year. The board of directors, these are the people that made this entire thing happen. Otherwise, it was just a one-off idea. And admittedly, as we continue to scale, we're absolutely interested in continuing to grow our board. So if you ever have an interest or this is something that gets you excited, let us know. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more about it. But every one of these guys has been a big part of the fabric of this organization to make it work. I do want to highlight one of our sponsors who's really made this happen. At the very beginning of our process, I reached out to Dale Young, a good mentor of mine, and he's taught me a lot about just how deep his passion for the outdoors is, owning a ranch in Oklahoma and making it part of the fabric of the culture that he's been a part of with his organization. And he's been so integral in building this as a group. So I wanted to point to Dale to make a couple comments, and I just wanted to tell him how much I appreciate it.
Well, I guess I would just say to you, I'm here because of all the things Richard has said. The idea of the outdoors, and I know everyone in this room feels the same way that I do. That's what I enjoy most in life. We have a really cool ranch. I know my friend Dan Cahalan's in the back there. He's been there. We have a 2,500-acre ranch up there on the Arkansas River. We do a lot of really cool hunting and fishing. And we have a lodge, and we have a bunkhouse, and we have a full staff of 4 people. We're doing the things to improve that ranch to make it better. But to me, it's all about the outdoors, the stuff that we can give back. And I want my kids and grandkids to keep that in the family. So it's a legacy thing for us. My company is Summit Financial Group, where we do benefits, we do insurance, we do investments, we invest a lot of money, and we manage a lot of 401k money for companies all across the country. We have offices, our national headquarters is here in Dallas, but we have offices in California and Connecticut, places in Oklahoma, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. But I'm just excited to be a part of this thing with Richard. We want to grow it. I think that we can make it better. We can make a big difference if guys like you help us grow the organization so that we can scale to the place that sponsors will want to be a part of what we're excited about. You know, they want to sell things, and to the extent that we help make it a big organization, they get to sell more things, and so we can get more from them to help us do more for the cause. So, thanks, Richard. I'm excited to be here.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for that. I wanted to mention also, Dale, when I used to call on benefits brokers and financial advisors for a living, they were always a juggernaut in terms of their influence and their circle of influence throughout the region. And now that I'm working with them personally and professionally, they've been unbelievable in terms of resources and just helping me grow my business. So can't say enough. And if you get them in a headlock, he may invite you to the ranch. So just one other incentive. I do want to go as quickly as we can into the speaking engagement. I had an awesome time catching up. It's been fun. Andy and I have a lot in common, but looking at how when you visualize what the outdoors is, most of it is from your own experiences, but also what you see in photographs online, Instagram, magazines, things that you see through Sims and other companies. Most of it's photographed through people like Andy. And what's been wild for me is I've experienced a little bit more of his career and understood more of his background. It's been cool because what started with his passion for giving back and being a part as a firefighter and being a veteran has led him into the outdoors and began his career. And he hasn't forgotten it as he scaled, and he's even done like Super Bowl ads and won large awards throughout his career, and it's just been phenomenal. And not to say we won't have
Lucky.
Oh well,
Lucky.
I'll say this: we will
Very lucky.
We'll continue to have photographers, and we've had photographers in the past. Andy's one of the best in the industry of photography, so it's a treat. It's a treat to have him, and with him having a place in Idaho, he tends to bird hunt a little bit more. He bird hunts 60 days a year for chuckers and all different types of quail. So it'll be cool for us to hear a little more about his background with dogs. But we'll start with a video. Orvis Presents, ironically we're in an Orvis right now. Orvis Presents did a video of him, which was pretty wild. So we'll start with that. And
You might go to sleep.
I don't know about that. Brandon, that little white thing in front of you, could you turn that on? And we'll kind of get rolling right after that.
My old setter.
For me, photography is not what you've done, it's what you're going to do, what you're going to find, what you're going to experience. And that's part of the curiosity. I had a journalism scholarship after I got out of high school, and I went and I started school, and I wasn't mature enough in order to finish it. I was married at the time, still married to the same great gal that I'm married to today. She said, why don't you go to the Air Force? I went to the Air Force as a firefighter, and she had bought me a Pentax K1000 camera. And the very moment that I put that camera to my eye and looked through it, everything became clear to me. is kind of connecting with the people in the places you're at. But also, the closer you get to those people, the more you start to learn about the process and the things about these people's lives. All those things together is what really kind of energizes me. I love that. Photography now has evolved for me as flights, treatments, estimates, phone calls, conference calls. The phonetic pace of that whole thing is overwhelming sometimes. My kids never saw me at the table at dinner time. It was like I didn't have to teach them work ethic. They saw it, and they saw it every day. When it comes around the fall, I take time off. For me to take the time off from my business and my photography, which is a passion of mine, and to get away from it, I look forward to that. So when you come back to photography, you're going to be re-energized. I tell everybody that I don't have a drug habit or a mistress, so I have to have something to spend my money on. For me, my addiction is my bird dogs. Being around them and being connected with them is really what gets me out the door. The greatest result for me being a photographer is seeing my son exactly, following my footsteps. Interviewing in place, not to CGI this. He's following my footsteps. I was able to show him that. A life that he could have on his own. And, that's kind of been embedded in him now. That's the coolest thing in the world, man. See your offspring and your children. He's the best part of me. My family's the best part of me. My dad's always been super stoked and supportive of what I want to do. I remember at a young age he even said, he's like, I don't care what you do in life. I don't care if you want to be a clown. That's what you should do. Life's all about being happy. He's right. See him doing what he's doing and marching to his own drum and having his own voice. Pretty damn cool. My name is Andy Anderson.
Make us start crying.
Yeah, I know, man. If you weren't crying, I'd be impressed. That's pretty fun. Very cool. Guys, welcome Andy Anderson.
Thank you. Thanks, Richard.
My pleasure.
Making me cry.
I love it.
Well, first of all, thank you all for having me here. Richard reached. How long did you reach out?
It was probably about a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago.
Probably something like that.
And the super energetic, super enthused guy. He's like, you gotta do this. So I'm here. That's why I'm here. So I think what you guys are trying to do is pretty impressive. So I think we need to do more of that. in this spectrum of hunting and fishing because, you know, so much of it anymore has become a spectator sport because of social media. So, and I think that's kind of ruined the sport, but I think what you guys are trying to do is really positive. So, kudos to you guys. So, Richard, which one do I push here?
Ain't that right? Yeah.
Okay, so let me give you a little history about myself. So I'm the luckiest SOB photographer in the world, and you're going to find out why. My father was an Air Force. He was a B-47 pilot in the Air Force, and then he got out of that, went into civil engineering. He was a career military guy in the Air Force, and he was in Strategic Air Command for 20 years. So my father was the great Santini. He literally would have to put quarters on my bed, and I would, you know, no joke. And so that's the way my upbringing was. So being in the Air Force and being an Air Force family, it was like the last thing I wanted to do was go in the Air Force. But I ended up getting married. But before that, I got a scholarship. I grew up in Central Florida back in the 60s and 70s. And I got this scholarship, very small one, through a community college. And I started going to school and was like, well, I can't do this. Because I just wasn't mature enough to do it. So I met my wife, we got married, and about 6 months later, she goes, why don't you go in the military? And I was dead set against it. But I went in the military, so that's how that played out. And I went in as a firefighter. And, you know, I got away from my creativity completely after I went in the Air Force. And then about when I was 28 years old, I had orders to go to Kings Salmon, Alaska, which is out in the Bristol Bay. And before we were stationed in Charleston at the time, and it was a 1-year assignment away from your wife. And she bought me, went to a Montgomery Ward, so some of you people are too young to know what Montgomery Wards are, but this is a Montgomery Ward. She bought me a Pentax K1000. And I honestly believed at that time, I realized how much ADHD I was involved in my life, because I just couldn't focus. And that camera completely changed my life. I mean, completely changed it. So one thing led to another, and I started taking fishing photographs. And that's, you know, when I started taking fishing photographs, I was shooting, and this is in the late 80s. All the way until about, you know, the mid-90s. You know, I was taking pictures for Sims, Sage, Winston, Orvis, and you know, there was only about 5 or 6 of us that were doing it at the time. There wasn't that many fishing photographers as there is today. There was only about 5 or 6 of us, and we were giving all the images to all the fishing industry. So it was a pretty lucrative business because nobody wanted, you know, before digital. Nobody wanted to pick up a camera with film and a light mirror, and they go, I'm staying away from that. You know, so not many people were involved in it. And this picture right here is interesting. I shot this for Patagonia, and this was shot, I can't remember his name, but very famous fisherman, lived in Jacksonville. Curry. Jeff Curry, yes. That's Jeff Currier's car, the Aspen. And this is a Hebgen Lake. And this is probably 1991, when I was still in the Air Force. And we couldn't afford to stay in a hotel. So we camped on the ground at Hebgen Lake, and that's how you would look for gulpers in the evening. With that, you sit on, or in the afternoon, you sit on top of that and look for gulpers with binoculars. So that, you know, that to me tells me in my very early career of who I was, because I was a fishing photographer. And this is the kind of how I was able to get around and get my photographs. So, you know, one thing led to another, tarpon fishing. So, about 1997, and the editor from, he was at Esquire, but he initially started, this is where the charms start to come in, right? Like, why am I so blessed? So this editor, Terry McDonald, he was one of the founding editors of Rolling Stone and Mariah magazine, which is the predecessor to Outside magazine. And he saw my images when he was at Esquire. And he says, I want you to take some pictures, you know, because I'm getting ready to move to Men's Journal. I was going to be the new editor of Men's Journal at the time. So I said, okay, but I'm still in the Air Force. And he goes, well, that's fine. You know, we'll find a time to do it. So about 3 months later, I get orders to go to Kuwait. And so I said, Terry, I'm not going to be able to shoot any pictures for you because, you know, I'm going to be in Kuwait. He goes, that's no problem. I want you to do a story about fighter pilots while you're there in Kuwait. So this is the story that I shot for Men's Journal. And the editor, I mean, I had complete access to these things. I mean, I was stationed there already, but this was during Gulf War I, right after Gulf War I. And so what happened is I come back on the 23rd of January after 4 months, and I said, Terry, or 23rd of December, and I said, hey, I got these slides, you want to see them? He goes, yeah, meet me in Jackson Hole, Wyoming on the 1st or 2nd of January. So I said, I'll drive over there. I drove over there, showed him the slides. The next day, he wrote me a contract for $100,000 a year. Contract as the first staff photographer at Men's Journal, plus expenses. And I'm still on active duty. I mean, and so I was, you know, it was just me and Mark Solider that were taking the pictures at the time. So, you know, that was the first thing that changed my life, right? Okay, amongst others. So I eventually got out of fishing because it was just too creatively stifling for me. It just, everybody wanted to, you know, grip and grin. It was just like, okay, this is boring. I can't do this anymore. So I wanted to start taking pictures of people. So I started stepping away from fishing because it was just so creatively stifling for me because I wanted to be able to tell stories. And you can't just, you know, fishing was, it got to be so easy to do, and it was just not challenging for me creatively. So in 2001, I got selected as one of the 8 photographers to shoot the 2002 Winter Olympics. And so these are some of the photographs that we shot with. I mean, I shot them with old 4x5 cameras at the time. And another passion of mine is cowboys. I love taking pictures of cowboys. I mean, I live in the Great Basin of Idaho, out west, you know, and the Buckaroo cowboy is arguably like the only true cowboy there is because it comes from the vaquero influence. I mean, it's not Texas, I'll tell you that. And they have a completely different look. But I mean, these people they go out on the wagon. I mean, they still go out on the wagon every year when they go branding for 6 weeks, and you'll see some of the photographs. So these pictures were taken, you know, 5 years ago.
Look like you go back in time.
Yeah. This is Africa. So I ended up going to, I did a thing with Paul Tudor Jones. He owned a lodge on the Grenadier Reserve. They hired me to go shoot pictures of his reserve, and we had up in a helicopter one day and chased this herd of wildebeest. And then in 2007, I get asked to start, I always wanted to start a Southern magazine, like a Southern Vanity Fair. So I was very good friends with Jamie Easler that was at Departure Magazine that did Hemispheres Magazine, which was owned by United Airlines. So he goes, Andy, he called me one day, it was in 2007, he goes, hey, we're gonna do this magazine. I said, okay, so, and I wanted to call it Mason Dixon or something, just to, you know, a little controversial. But it's something to demarcate, you know, just to change, say it's completely different, you know, magazine than what's going on up north, because there's a lot of money in the South, man. A lot of quiet money. More money than I think is in the North. So we ended up, you know, I was the first staff photographer at Garden Gun, and I shot all their covers for the first 2 years. So these are all the covers. But Garden Gun is named after a gay bar in Charleston. Seriously, that's what it's named after. So some of the photographs I shot, I pitched the story for the River Road from New Orleans all the way to Clarksdale, and this is part of the images that I did. This is Home Monkey's Lounge. Mall Ford. So I went to Cuba, and I went there in 99 while I was still in the Air Force, just before I got out. And I went there on leave, and I was a little worried I was going to get stuck there. But I didn't. But I ended up going there in 99, and I did this story for, again, it was Hemispheres Magazine with Jamie. We went to Cuba. So these are some of the photographs. Amazing place. Anybody been there? Anybody? It's completely safe. You should go. You should go. So some of these pictures, I like shooting my own personal work. So some of these images are from. I wanted to go down and shoot tequila. You know, the workers down in Jalisco, and that's where I went down. I went down to some of these photographs that I did. So growing, you know, you had asked me a question yesterday about what about these sideshow people. So I grew up in Central Florida, and I think I was talking to you about it, Chad. Is that we lived in St. Cloud, so every time we used to drive to Orlando, we'd have to drive through Taft, Florida. And in Taft, Florida, this was in the late 60s, early 70s, they had these trains, and in these trains were all these circus animals. And they would winter at the end of the railroad tracks in Taft, Florida, over the winter. And I was like, God, that is just the most romantic thing I've ever seen in my life. And I go, it was always in the back of my head. So I became a photographer, and the more successful I got, I said, I'm going to go back and visit these guys or try to find out who they are. Well, I did a little bit of research, and I found out there's a town in Florida called Gibsonton, and where all the circus people live. All this, that's where they winter. So I found out, I reached out to Ward Hall. Ward Hall is the last traveling sideshow in America. And I called him and I said, hey, I'd love to do this portrait series. He said, sure, come on down and see me. So Ward Hall and his lover were all, they're gay. And then they all lived in the same house, and this was the little person, Pooh Bah. And this is actually, and they would all live in the same house. It was crazy. And this is Howard Hughes. So these were taking a long time. And then the other thing I was excited about was shooting matadors in Spain, running the bulls. And I watch a lot of documentaries. So I watched this documentary about, what is it called? Confessions of a Superhero. And everybody seen it? It's a great documentary. And he started it. So I go, and this is how I get my ideas for my photo shoots. So I ended up calling the guy. I said, hey, can I come down and shoot you? He said, yeah, come on down. Pretty tragic figure, but I shot these on the 6th Street Bridge. Mexico. This was done for a commercial too. Bahamas. And you see how far I'm getting away from the fishing? I'm getting really far away from it. And I never thought in a million years that I'd be photographing this kind of stuff. I mean, so this was taken down in North Florida. I was there on Easter Sunday. This church, I've known this people in this church for probably 30, 40 years, and she invited me. I asked her, I said, can I come shoot the baptism? And she goes, yeah, come on up. And I've known her for a long time, and she allowed me to do this. This is some stuff I did for Beretta. So I worked on a book, 500 Years of the Sporting Life by Beretta. It just came out, I don't know, when it came out, like 7 or 8 years ago. You familiar with it, anybody? But it's a big coffee table book, and these are some of the images that I shot for the book. I traveled around the world. This is Alaska. So before I went, while I was in the Air Force, I would take leave every summer, and I worked as a fishing guide in Alaska for 4 summers. Because I first started doing that when I was stationed there at King Salmon. I mean, it was pretty amazing duty. These are just some of the old fishing photographs. I was with Dave Mangum on this day, and Charlie Perkins, and it rained on us like this. This is in Sweden. This is the book I ended up doing with Rizzoli about 5, 6 years ago. All my fishing, and probably longer than that, probably 10 years ago. Iceland. I'm just showing you the array of different photography that I've done. That I started as a fishing photographer, and how much I've changed. I was talking about your DNA, and I think that the more life you live outside photography or whatever your vocation is, the more I think grounded you become. It gives you different perspectives.
What I'm noticing though, from your past stuff all the way to now, you still have your style, right?
Okay.
And what I'm
I
seeing,
guess so.
I'm seeing it.
Yeah.
And it's very rugged. It's very gritty.
Honest.
It's very, if that's what you want to call it, honest.
Yeah.
And maybe you're seeing a lot of these things today where it's just kind of like
a lot.
You don't see the imperfections, and I think that's what's kind of great about what you're seeing. You're seeing the imperfections, and you're seeing every wrinkle, every little thing that's happening, and some of the things that you're looking at, like even though you have a picture of a dog that looked like, I don't even know, maybe it was windy, or maybe
it was
you
windy.
did it. Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, that's a pretty cool picture.
Yeah. But you're right about that. Photography, to to me, it's when the classic photography is never going to go out. It's just never going to. I mean, the photography we see today is so fake. You know, especially with the AI that's happening. I mean, that's going to be a game changer for all of us. But you know, I like it being honest and authentic. You know, and it's an overused word. People don't really know what it means, but I like to think my work is honest and authentic. There you go. This guy lived. This is Dugout Dick. Lived in a cave in central Idaho for about 60 years. 60 years. This is Warner Glenn. Anybody familiar with Warner Glenn? Warner Glenn is an amazing human being. Lives right down in Douglas, Arizona. Lives right on the border. Literally from here across the road is where the border is, right? And he's a rancher, conservationist, and he's the one that found the jaguar, treated jaguar. They were out lion hunting because he's a government trapper, and they thought they were treeing a mountain lion, but they didn't. It was a jaguar. And this is in the mid '90s, and they literally found that there was jaguars that they thought were extinct were alive. So he came back and said, we need to, leave the border open for obvious reasons, keep the migration of animals, and he worked for a long time. He had the Borderlands, or the Malpai Borderlands Commission, which he got rid of. He got with all the local ranchers, the Border Patrol, conservationists in the state, and they were able to have an agreement that they could, leave these corridors open for these animals so they could migrate back and forth. It's pretty interesting. This guy, he's 84 years old, and just an incredible human being. Incredible. This guy just was at the Bonneville Salt Flats, and he just won a record on a motorcycle. And it was part of his bucket list. He won a world record on one of his, on his motorcycle. And this is like moments after he won. Jim Harrison, Tom and I. So I worked on a movie it's called A Beautiful Thing, or A Most Beautiful Thing, and the film was about the first African-American high school rowing team in America was made up of South Side and West Side Chicago gang members. So I was asked to come and take the stills for this film. Well, I made friends with these gang members, and I come back about 3 weeks later, and I let me hang out with them, and I took these pictures of them. People mean the gun violence. I mean, that's the reason why I did this stuff. But, pretty interesting culture. This was in Argentina, gauchos. I worked on a film. This is for the Discovery Channel. Last year I went to Nepal, and I wanted to photograph Sherpas. So I flew to Kathmandu, and we ended up flying to Lokla, which is the world's most dangerous airport. So I flew in there, and I met up with an outfitter, and we walked from Lokla all the way to Everest Base Camp. And along the way, we photographed these Sherpas. It was something that was very interesting to me to do. So these are all guys that have summited Everest multiple times.
How long were you there?
63, last year. Yeah.
Was that before they climbed or after?
No, these are people that are retired.
Oh.
Yeah, I went to their villages, and then I just walked to Everest Base Camp. It's 35 miles, and it's not flat, I'll tell you that.
How did your lungs adapt?
It was right after bird hunting season, so I was in pretty good shape, but it's still kicking my butt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's hard.
I mean, Everest Base Camp is like 17,000, almost 18,000 feet. Jeez. It was like sucking through 2 COVID masks with a straw. And this is the buckaroos down in the Great Basin. These were shot last year.
Where are they at again?
Where Independence Valley is, Tuscarora, Nevada is? You know where Elko is? Nevada? Well, it's about You know where Winnemucca is? It's northern Nevada. It's northern Nevada. It's northern Nevada. Northern Nevada. They call it the Great Basin. So every night, what they do is they bring in the remuda. Remuda is just a Spanish word for a group of horses. So what happens every night, it's one of the last places in the country where they still do this. So they have this rope corral, half moon corral, made out of rope. And they bring the horses into this corral every night. And the cow boss, Micah, he will pick, the buckaroo will come up and say, Micah, I want that horse. And he will rope the horse and give it to the buckaroo. They do that every night. Every night. And they go out and they go out on the wagon, because they call it the wagon because they have to brand. I mean, the place on the Spanish ranch is 1 million acres. So you can't just go back at home every night. So you might be 30 miles from headquarters or something. So they go out there and they live in these teepee. They live in these teepee tents. Sorry?
Are they trying to break? Are these wild Mustangs?
No, they're branding. They're branding all the cattle.
Oh, the cattle.
Yeah. So they live in these teepees. So I worked on a little fashion project, and this is something I shot down there. That's it. That's it. That's it. You told me to go quick, and I did. So has anybody got some questions?
I would imagine over the years you've had a few close calls, either with wildlife or people.
Yeah, a lot. I got arrested in Cuba.
Stories stand out.
I got arrested in Huh? No, I was, because when I was taking pictures of these people that didn't belong in the area that I photographed them, because they didn't have the right paperwork, and they wanted to know why I was photographing them, so they literally pulled up and they said, okay, you guys all come down to the police station. And we were there for like 6 hours. And I was like, how am I going to explain this to my wife, right? Wow. Yeah. So, what else? Had the camera gear stolen. I worked on a Ram truck shoot, and we ended up getting a truck stuck in the water in Northern California. You know,
Was that with the Richards group?
Yeah, it was. Jimmy Bonner.
That's my old spot.
Yeah. You know Jimmy?
Yeah.
Jimmy's a very good friend of mine.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So he was the one that reached out to me. I mean, this is what I'm telling you about being blessed. He asked me to be, I was the first call to do that Paul Harvey Super Bowl commercial. Yeah. And him and Rob Baker.
Most brilliant commercial.
Yeah. You know the history about that thing?
I don't think so.
So what that was a recording.
Remind the guys what it
You
is.
familiar with Paul Harvey Super Bowl? I'm sure everybody here from Paul. Yeah. But what it was it was a recording of Paul Harvey at the Future Farmers of America in 1976. And it was Paul Harvey reading a poem that an anonymous farmer had given to him. And he read that, and that's the recording. It's fascinating. I mean, just stop you in your tracks, right?
The photography is impressive.
Yeah. Well,
Where did the poem come from again?
sorry?
Where did the poem come from?
Came from a farmer. He just sent it to him, told him to read it. At the Future Farmers of America.
And it ends with a bit about his son, like you explained about your
Yeah. So how do you, I have to talk to you when we get down here. I'm going to talk a little bit, yeah. But, so that's what I'm telling you. I'm super, like, blessed. I'm the most blessed guy in the world in photography.
Would you rather shoot people or
I like it all.
nature or animals?
I love people. Yeah, I just love people.
So you've been all over the world. Where's your favorite place?
Oh God! I shot the Texas tourism campaign in 2007 or 8. I thought Texas was pretty cool. I couldn't believe how diverse this state was. We went all the way from Caddo Lake all the way down to Cibola Creek. I could not believe how diverse this state was. Yeah. So New Zealand, Africa, Idaho. I mean, all of it's great.
Tell us about your hunting, because like 60 days hunting every year.
So I just set myself up so I can go birding anything. I try to get all my work done now so I can screw off, right?
Yeah.
Bird hunting is a big passion for me. I mean, I love the chucker hunt. I mean, that's really all I do is chucker hunt. And
Does everyone know what a chucker is?
Where do you check
Southern Idaho, northern Nevada. Yeah. You ever done it?
Only hand raised.
Yeah.
Tell them about your spot.
What, but the one I told you about the guy?
Yeah, with Claude.
So anybody familiar with Claude Dallas? The name Claude Dallas? Some of you old guys should know. Look it up on your phone. Some of you look it up on your phone while you're here. Claude Dallas. Claude Dallas was a guy, and this is where I hunt. This is how rugged this country is. So this guy this is in his 70s or 80s. He was a draft dodger. He came out west, you know, avoiding the law, didn't want to be arrested. And he comes out and starts working in these ranches in the Great Basin. Well, he ends up getting arrested because they found out where he was. And they bring him back to, I think it was Illinois, I can't remember. And they put him in jail and he was out, and now he's really pissed off, right? He comes back out west and he just wants to be left alone. So he has this place down in the Waihes, in the Owyhee Owhyee, the Owyhees. And he had this wall tent down in the Owyhees. And he was hunting and fishing out of season, trapping and all this shit. And somebody reported him to the fishing game out of Boise. Well, these two Pogan Elms, the two game wardens, drove all the way from Boise out to his camp. It's in the middle of the bottom of a canyon. They walk down there, and he's got some animals hanging that are out of season. And he's got some, trapped animals and stuff like that. Well, he ends up shooting and killing these two wardens. Very famous story. And then he gets arrested, and then he escapes from jail, and then he gets, acquitted. And then it's just a fascinating story. So that's the area where I hunt, where he did this dirty deed. So, I mean, a lot of the game wardens still in Idaho can't stand the guy. For obvious reasons, but it's a great book. Give the Boy a Gun by Jack Olson. You want to read a good book? Read that book.
You guys have other questions?
So obviously you've done a lot of commercial work too.
That's all I do now.
Yeah. And I was wondering, obviously you've got the skins on the wall, and a fantastic at your craft or whatever. Do you get to call the shots, or do you with your commercial work, do people call you?
It's a collaboration.
Do they want you, or do they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a collaboration, but at some point you're paid to keep your mouth shut, right? They're paying you so much money, like you can't be a diva about it, man.
Yeah.
Right? But it's a collaboration. If it's done at the high level, then you collaborate. Both have ideas and we work it out, right? That's what it's about. Yeah. But that's the majority of what I do now. Pharmaceutical. I just I did a big pharmaceutical shoot in New York City about a week and a half ago, I think I told you. Yeah. Then I just came from Alabama, and I was working on a agriculture job for Cortiva. They do all this for grass for cattle. So I just came from there, and that's why I still here. I mean, my career is completely different than it was when I started. And I had no idea I was going to be doing this. No idea.
Imagine.
I mean, it was shocking to me.
Could you imagine any other career that you've
No.
been on?
No. I'm doing what I need to be doing.
That's right.
Yeah.
Where do you live?
I live near Boise. Yes, sir.
How many images do you shoot typically to get X finished product?
Well, it depends if I get happy finger, right?
1%?
When I was shooting film, it was a lot less, right? But now when you shoot digital, you become a little lazy, and I have to be honest with you. You got to be careful with yourself, But I have 64 terabyte of images in my studio, and that's not even all the stuff that I've had scanned. So,
Do you still see value in old school photography? Or
oh yeah,
digital everything?
I still have my darkroom.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I still have my film cameras.
What percentage of the time do you use?
I haven't been in that darkroom forever, man.
Yeah.
I was afraid you weren't going to ask that question. No, I haven't been in there probably 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah, because I've been working, but I still have it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned AI, and you said it's a game changer. What's your perspective on how is it going to either help or ruin creativity and authenticity?
Well,
what's your opinion?
I can show you some pictures when I get down here. I can show you some pictures that I did in AI, and all it is keystrokes. That's all it is, right? But what's going on right now in the AI industry for photography in general is that Getty is suing Midjourney for like $15 trillion because Midjourney scanned all their images in the Getty library and didn't tell them about it and didn't pay them for it. So now all these images that are being, this is where it's going. I'll tell you, I can see the writing on the wall. So, Getty sued them. They're going to get this thing figured out in court, copyright law and all that stuff. But Getty's going to get this thing solved. And once they get it solved, they can go, okay, guys, you can come to our library. You can do AI, and you can own it, but you're going to have to pay some money. That's what's going to happen. And I think it's going to change photography. It'll literally change photography. It won't be as good a photographer, you'll be how good you can code. That's where it's going, I think. And it's sad. Right? I mean, but that's just one little aspect of life, right? Look at all the people it's going to put out of work. Right? Pretty scary.
Times are changing.
Yeah.
You guys have any more questions? Any other thoughts?
Shoot on.
Huh?
What do you shoot on?
I shoot all kinds of cameras. I've got, I got a little Leica point and shoot that I have, and then I have Sony's and Fuji's and 8x10, 5x7, 4x5. So it all depends on what I want to do and how I shoot it. I'm a deer hound in photography.
Do you enjoy navigating, contacting these people? I'm sure a lot of times it's maybe set up for you, but sounds like definitely in the old days, figure out, okay, I want to go shoot these
I still do that.
gauchos.
Yeah, that was all my own I set that up. I make the phone calls and stuff.
Part of the hunt, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love doing that, right? I get story ideas all the time. Like, I watch a lot of documentaries, and that's where I get my ideas.
How do you go about contacting these people that you want to?
Pick up the phone and call, man.
You get paid for those personal?
No,
You do it for fun.
just do it. A musician doesn't just play when he's getting paid. You gotta stay fresh, man. I just love it.
Maybe what about your dogs? What kind of dogs?
I have setters. I'm actually gonna pick a new one up Saturday. A new setter, a new puppy. So I'm looking forward to that. But I run setters.
What do they retrieve as well as point?
Yeah, they do both. And they're much more hardier in the wintertime. I mean, early season it's tough on them because it's a little warm. You got to keep them shaved. But as the winter gets on, I mean, our season goes all the way from the end of August all the way to the end of January. It's a long season. And in January, you're hunting in 5-degree weather with maybe 3 inches of snow on the ground.
Do you kill them or do they pets as well?
They're pets. Yeah. They come to work with me and go in my man shed with me and, cuddle up to me and, yeah. They're named after either blues musicians or Civil War generals. So my first one was named after my grandfather, was named Gus, which was the big one who's in the film.
Yeah.
The second one was Ely after Robert E. Lee. And then that's a little controversial, but I love the Civil War and I'm just a big, fan of it. Or, I love the history of it, right? But the next one I got was Burnside. And you can either say he's after, Ambrose Burnside, they got fired by Grant, or R.L. Burnside, the great blues musician.
Wow.
So,
You got a hybrid.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of little housekeeping items I wanted to mention. I know we had talked a little bit about this same topic last year about this time. We're starting to bring up the idea of who we want to have for next year. If y'all have any suggestions, let me know. I was just going to go through the list a little bit. Dave Hahn is one that we've targeted for a while. He's a famed mountaineer. He's climbed Everest more than any other non-Sherpa on the planet. Pretty hard to get a hold of because he's climbing mountains literally all the time. Fred Eichler, he's harvested almost everything with the bow. We really haven't had many big game hunters yet, so we want to see if we can't get someone like that. Usually they don't want to talk, which sucks, but whatever. Oliver White, visited with him about a month ago. Done an unbelievable job. Everything from investment banking to running a Bahamas lodge, Seegan being a good one. Phil Robertson, not sure how everyone feels about him. Be curious, everyone's thoughts. Flip Pallett, seems like he's on the speaking circuit again, as I just found out hours ago. So possibly him, and then a few others as well. World-renowned Olympic bow hunter and archer, and then also another photographer as well as a filmmaker, Zach. But wanted to just open it up, see if anyone has any suggestions, any thoughts on the list we have, or anyone that anyone would suggest.
We're probably not going to have anything off the top of our head, but might be a good idea is we come up with some ideas. We'll just email you or call
Yeah.
you or text you something.
Absolutely.
Usually us guys are like in the moment, right?
That's right.
You know what? I just talked to so and so. Here we go. How about this?
That's right. Well, if you guys have anyone else you have an interest in, let us know. We're still hunting for one kind of big name. Jay Novacek's kind of our big name this year. So let us know. And then naturally, as the year winds down, we have 3 more events left here, July, September, and then November as well. It's probably hard to read there, but the numbers have continued to drop. And next year, we'll be looking at more of a sponsor-led initiative in terms of funding versus members, so we'll be able to bring in more members, and that'll be one benefit as well. So if you haven't signed up for the rest of the year, do so. We'd love to have you guys, and just thanks again for coming. Really appreciate you being a part of it.
Thank you.
Also, we got elk sliders and barbecue here, and then tons of high-end spirits, so enjoy it.
Nice shout.
Oh, and one last thing before, sorry.
My name's Frank. I'm the store manager here at Orvis, Dallas. Super stoked to have all you guys in. I think a lot of what you guys are into and what we're into really aligns, so we're really happy to host you guys. One big thing you guys talk about a lot is conservation, funding that. We're in the middle of Orvis Give Back Days. All the stores in Texas have come together, and we're raising money to fund conservation and preservation of the Guadalupe Pass, or state fish of Texas, through the Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation. So I'm going to be raffling off at the end of this event tonight a loaded hydros reel, some hats, some buffs, and things like that in exchange for donations. So if you, $10 will get you 1 ticket, $20 will get you 3 tickets, and $50 will get you 8 tickets in the bucket. And no matter what, 1 ticket up to another one, you get 10% off your entire purchase of any full price Orvis item in the store. So anything, no holds barred, H3 rods, a t-shirt, doesn't matter. So me or
10% off the boat?
Yep,
Okay, perfect.
There you go.
I'll even blow it up for you. So myself or our fishing manager Michael, who's over at the register, we can ring you up for that at the register, give you your tickets. And if you got that red ticket in your hand, that also tells you 10% off. So
Absolutely.
So I'll scream at everyone a little bit later after you guys are all nice and full and drunk, and we'll raffle that off.
That's awesome. Frank, thanks for having us also. This is such a beautiful setup and so grateful for you. And again, guys, enjoy the food and drink, and again, go buy some stuff. Love it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming, man. Good, dude. Hustling, man. What's that? Oh man, I've been traveling a ton. I just got done with like a 5-week tour. It was wild. But yeah, we're
5 weeks of like trying to sell different shops.
yeah, all throughout the Mountain West. So almost every fly shop from Colorado to Seattle. Kind of, southwestern corner of Bend and northeastern corner of like kind of Montana. So it was long. Hey, Richard Fryer.
Yes.
Oh, cool. Thanks for coming, man.
I love it. This is awesome.
You like it? That's awesome.
I've followed Aiden for a long time. Oh, yeah.
Have you really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
When I see the screenshot, yeah, I was like, this morning I was like,